Closed emitter red dots seem to be the new hotness these days, for pistols specifically. So I decided I'm going to come out here, test regular traditional open emitter red dot versus a closed emitter pistol dot, and see what I like better. I'm going to start with a standard Holosun open emitter red dot. This is on my Springfield Prodigy. I love this pistol. Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. Today I want to compare two things. Regular open emitter optics like this Holosun 407C here, and closed emitter mailbox optics like the Sealy Bear here. Now both of these are kind of budget options. Holosun is like the original budget optic that has made a really good name for themselves in the industry. I completely trust all of my Holosun optics, and I've got a bunch of them. And Sealy is making a name for themselves as well. They're even more on the budget spectrum, but I've just been seeing a lot of good things from them. They sent me this and they told me to torture test it. I've dropped it from head height onto hard surfaces numerous times. It's held zero and it keeps working just fine. In fact, it's not even really scratched. So that's not really the point though. I'm not trying to compare each specific optic. I am just using both of those as a representation of that overall style of optic, whether closed emitter or open emitter. So if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe and let's talk about optics. A closed emitter red dot. This is the Sealy Bear. They sent me this out to review. I did a video a little while back. For the price point, it is a really great option for closed emitter. So we're going to test this today compared to my Holosun on my Prodigy. This is my PSA dagger build. See how it does. So the closed emitter thing seems to be the new popular thing. Everybody is putting mailboxes on top of their pistol slides. And it was a long time before I subscribed to that theory of thought. And part of the reason, honestly, is just aesthetics. I think that something like this looks great on top of my pistol. But a big mailbox on top of it just looks kind of funny to me. And so I never bought one. Sealy sent me out one and I was really excited to try it. And before we get started, I want to tell you that I totally understand the point of closed emitter optics. Whereas with an open emitter, if something gets in here and blocks your emitter, snow, dirt, dust, lint if you're concealed carrying, whatever it may be, if that emitter is blocked, you have no reticle and you're basically just looking through a window. So you better be able to co-witness your iron sights at that point. And so in that way, there are huge advantages to a closed emitter. With a closed emitter, you have glass on the front and the back, and there's no way that that reticle can be blocked. But I also think that there are some disadvantages. And so I really wanted to try them side by side and see what I thought, because when I did the review for this optic, I noticed some things and I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't crazy. And so took them out to the range yesterday, shot them both side by side, same distances, close up, farther back, kind of in the middle, and just saw what seemed to work better for me. So now we're going to try a little farther back, just to see how each one does at a little bit of distance. I do admit with the first shooting that we did, the open emitter dot was faster to acquire a sight picture. So we'll see how it goes a little bit farther back. Again, open emitter first is on the Prodigy. I'll take that. Now, the reason why I think that these two optics are good representations of that entire class of optic is a few reasons, but basically the Holosun 407C, very similar form factor to a lot of open emitter red dots, Trijicon RMR, most of the Holosun open emitter dots. Now there are some, there's like the SRO, there's the 507 comp, there are ones with much bigger windows. And then there are also ones with smaller windows like the 407K that I've got here that are more for concealed carry. But generally this, using an RMR footprint, is a pretty standard window size. And it's something that I've gotten very used to. I seem to be able to get my sight picture very quickly with it. And I can keep that reticle within my window while I'm shooting. Now, when I first started shooting with the closed emitter dot, the first thing I noticed was that the window is much smaller and it kind of feels like you're looking through a tube, whereas with the open emitter, I don't even really notice the optic body itself. I just look at my target and my reticle, is right on top of it. I'm sure with more practice and experience, I could get to that same point with the closed emitter dot. But at first, for sure, it took some getting used to. Also with the closed emitter, you generally are going to have to be mounting it higher up because you're going to have to use some kind of a plate system. Now that's not true with all of them. Holosun has their EPS carry line that use actually the K footprint. And so if you have a pistol with a K footprint milling for an optic, well, it'll just direct mount. The thing is, the actual EPS is a full-size optic, so most full-size guns don't have a K footprint. They've got like an RMR footprint or something similar, in which case you will still need to use a plate. Now the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you're running this plate, well, it puts the optic height pretty high up. And even though this has lower third co-witness sights on this slide, I cannot co-witness those sights through the optic. Now, that's not really a big deal with a closed emitter optic because you have much less chance of your optic not working because there's nothing that can block the emitter. And now from the same distance, closed emitter with the Sealy Bear on the PSA Dagger. Well, you can see which one I did better at. Now, how likely is it really that you're going to have something blocking your emitter on your pistol red dot? Well, I go shooting. If you guys follow my channel, you know I pretty much shoot every weekend of the year, 52 weeks a year, whether it's snowing, whatever the weather conditions, raining. I go out there and I film footage to bring you guys videos, and I've been doing this for a couple years now. I go shooting in the snow. In fact, this gun last year when I was first testing it, when I first got the optic on it, the first bunch of range sessions with it we had a very, very snowy winter last year, and I shot this thing on days that it was snowing a bunch of times. Never once did I have snow actually block the emitter of the optic. Not a single time. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I don't go out there and try to like rub dirt in my gun and do all these kinds of things because I like my guns and I don't want to ruin them. Now, when Sealy sent me this and they said to torture test it, well, I really did. But that was a product that was sent to me for free, and they asked me to torture test it. I'm not trying to torture test my other things generally, but in regular use, I've never had a situation where my emitter has been blocked. I could see how that might happen, but honestly, how likely is that really? All right, we cut the distance in half. So she does a little bit more close up and personal. I love this gun. So if the likelihood really is that low that something might actually block the emitter on your red dot, and you don't somehow have iron sights that you can kill witness, well then, is it really worth spending all the extra money for a closed emitter? Because while this one is not super expensive, things like the Acro P2, the Steiner MPS, the 509T, some of these things they're not cheap optics by any means. And like the Acro P2 has a very similar form factor to this. Very similar window size, same kind of plate system. That's why I feel like this is a good representation. So you're going to spend a lot more generally on a closed emitter. And then you're going to mount it, and it's going to mount higher up on your slide, and it's going to have a much smaller window generally. Except for some of them. I think the 509T, the EPS series from Holosun, they seem to have a similar window size as their other optics, and I'm going to have to get a hold of one at some point. I do think that I'm going to put an EPS on this full-size M&P. I just think it would be a more appropriate size optic for it. Even though I have no issues with the 407K, I think the 407K might go better on my P365, although I'm going to need a new slide or have to mill it for that. That being a totally different tangent, my point is that it's a lot easier to shoot with a bigger window than it is with a smaller window. That's what I've found. I can shoot this gun faster, I can shoot it more accurate, I have more hits, less misses from just about every distance. And I do want to mention the fact that I do just shoot this gun better than this one. And so it's not 100% fair, but I had to have one on each gun to go out and compare them. I do just shoot my Prodigy very well. It's a really easy pistol to shoot. It's a 2011 style pistol. I love 1911s. I shoot them well, single action only. It's got an incredible trigger. I had Skip's guns do all new internals, Atlas trigger. It's got a 2.4 pound pull, very, very little recoil. And so there is a bit of that going on in this video where I do just generally shoot this pistol better than most of my other ones. But still, when it came to presenting and putting your sights on target, I was much faster with the open emitter than with the closed emitter. And I could keep that reticle in the window better. Now again, that probably does have something to do with the fact that this gun, I can just control the recoil better. I never lost track of the dot. Whereas with this one, it was not as easy to keep that dot in the window. Same distance, PSA dagger with the Sealy Bear and closed emitter dot. So you have to weigh likelihoods of certain situations happening. Do you feel like it is worth the trade-off of having a higher optic height and a smaller window just for those very, very rare occasions that you might have something that could block your red dot emitter? Or does it make more sense to you to have an optic that you are better at shooting, faster at shooting, can acquire a sight picture quickly, but there's a very, very low likelihood that something could at some point block your emitter, and it might be at the worst possible time ever. That's something that you've got to weigh. And then also, the price of them. You're generally going to pay more for a closed emitter optic of the same quality than you would for an open emitter optic. And then, and whether you want to admit this or not, there is the aesthetic thing. Everybody, maybe not everybody, most people that are into guns, yes, function over form, absolutely. But let's not kid ourselves, looking cool is part of it too. I really love this rifle build. Part of it is that it just looks awesome compared to some of my other ones. And kind of the same thing going on here. I do think that having the big mailbox on your slide looks a little ridiculous. Everybody that's, flexing their acros, aim point acros on the Instagram, it just looks goofy to me. And maybe I'm just old school. I don't know. I'm not a giant fan of the mailbox on top of your slide look. I understand the point of it, and I get that possibly it could be more reliable, the fact that your emitter can't get blocked by anything, but it just looks goofy to me. And part of it is you want your guns to look cool. I mean, that's a big reason that I build some of the guns the way I do and that I use the parts that I do. I want them to look good as well. And I do think that this looks a lot better than this. So take this with a bit of a grain of salt, because this entire video is my own personal opinion, my own personal experience, but I do have experience with both. And I gotta say, I prefer the open emitter. I really do. Now, I do want to try the HoloSun EPS series at some point, because they look to me like they have the same size window as their regular open emitter dots. They have just a different form factor than most of the other companies that are doing the big square mailbox. To me, an optic like this almost looks like it would be more at home on a rifle or a PCC than a handgun, but they are designed for handguns. There's a reason why they have a plate with an RMR cut, right? I do think that there's a place for them. I think maybe depending on your situation, the kind of shooting that you do, maybe your area that you live in, if you just constantly have your guns getting muddy or, just getting stuff in them, maybe a closed emitter is the way to go for you. But for me, right now at least, I think I'm in the open emitter camp. And I know that's not really the popular thing to say right now. So let me know down in the comments if you agree with me or not. I'm sure a lot of people won't agree with me. But testing them side by side, I shot this one a lot better than this one. Now again, like I said, I do just shoot this gun better than this one. I've put more rounds through this one. This is my favorite pistol that I own, and I'm very confident with it. But I'm also confident with this one. I could shoot Glocks just fine. There's a PSA Dagger, which is a Gen 3 Glock 19 clone. And I generally shoot it pretty good too. It's got a aftermarket trigger in it from Timney. And the thing shoots great. But I just can shoot this one better. And it does have something to do with the optics. I was able to acquire my sight picture faster with this one. Every time I present it, that dot just falls right into the middle of my window where I need it to. Whereas with this one, I have to do a little bit of searching sometimes. Now, if I practice more with it, I get the sight picture every time just like I should. But it does feel like I'm looking through a tube trying to find that reticle a little bit. Whereas this big window just feels natural. So again, let me know in the comments which one you prefer, closed emitter, open emitter. Let me know if you have experience with the Sealy Bear optic, because it is a new optic and it's a very affordable option. If you do want to get a closed emitter dot, I think there's a great way to go. Like I said, I've dropped it a bunch of times from high up and the thing has held zero. and it just keeps working. It is a beast of an optic, and so I don't want to take away anything from that in this video. It's for the price, it's very high quality. I'm just comparing overall open emitter versus closed emitter, and the open emitter optic is easier for me to shoot better. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it, and subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical. Hit that notification bell, and from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.